You don't have to. Feel better. That's yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah, we're gonna pump that. Oh, okay. Yeah. Either these steel all night. You got it. I've never had a lot.
Very good. Looks like Dan's not here, so I'll do the introductions. First of all, it is a pleasure to introduce Amari. Amari is our tech support, and she does not know how long and suffering we've had dealing with Zoom and trying to video everything. And Amari knows, she seems to know what she's doing. Well, the rest of us, not so much. So anyway, welcome to our first Mountain Living Lecture Series and of the year. And it's pleased to announce that we're going to have Chase Ryland from the Colorado Parks and Wildlife start us off this year. The rest of the layout will be in May. We'll be talking about recycling. In June, we have David Leatherman, who writes for the Bird Journal, and he will be telling us about the natural history of the pine meadows or pine species here, and so their ecology and stuff. So all the animals and things that pines and glacier meadows. In July, we have the Glade Reservoir information. So those of you who are wondering what's the deuce with that, what's up with that? Yeah, we'll have that. August, we have the Wildfire Protection Group. We'll be talking about what we do with wildfire mitigation here. And then in September, we ended up with life on a cattle ranch. If you've ever wondered about all those the cattle that get herded down the road there, you'll find out what that's all about. You're gonna have to wait till September.
Did you skip weed management? Because you don't want.
Yes, there is a June 14th. Yeah, thank you. June 14th is the weed management field day. So. So without further ado, I'll turn things over to Chad.
Oh, bless. Awesome. Yeah, no worries. Thank you. So, yeah, guys, my name is Chase. I'm the local district wildlife manager here. I spoke with you guys briefly last year, but Cash and Brock kind of stole all the so probably forgot about me entirely, but I'm still here. Yeah, so we can get started. I guess before I get started, a little bit of background on me. I went to school at CSU, studied wildlife biology, and then got this job up in Estes Park, and I worked up in Estes Park for about 7 years. And then, you know, that 5 million tourists a year, I got a little bit sick of that, and I kind of wanted to get back into the country a little bit more. So, so I've been here since last April, so about a year now. So I'm still fairly new. I don't know everything like the back of my hand yet, but I'm working on it. And yeah, so we'll get started here. Is there a way can we dim the lights?
You have it on or off.
Oh, okay. Here we can. Let's see. Let's go. There we go. I'll do a couple of these, and then we'll turn the lights back on for some stuff too, so we don't all fall asleep here. So I like to, especially me talking to a new community to me, I like to just briefly go over our agency and what we are and how we operate and stuff like that. I think that's really important for some of you guys that may not understand exactly what we do, how we do it, how we're funded, all that stuff. I think it's a good place to start. One thing I'll say is we're a state wildlife agency. And we're based on two basic principles. Fish and wildlife belong to the people of Colorado. And then fish and wildlife should be managed in a way that their populations will be sustained forever. At least that's our goal, is to make sure that all the species that we have out there on the landscape continue to be there so that generations way beyond all of us can still be able to get out there and view and enjoy the natural resources out there. Real quick, boring slide, but CPW, so Colorado Parks and Wildlife, we're mostly funded through hunting and angling license dollars. So the vast majority of our revenue for wildlife, so 62% of our funding is from hunting and fishing license dollars. And then so we only get a little bit of sales tax or from state tax, sorry. And then a couple of other stuff as well. And then both of our revenues are actually separated. So our park side of Parks and Wildlife is one coffer, and then the wildlife side is in another coffer. So the wildlife side, we generate our own money through those license dollars, and then the park side, they generate it through their parks passes, camping permits, all that fun stuff. So what's a district wildlife manager? You guys are probably familiar with the term game warden. Our official title is district wildlife manager. A game warden, the traditional definition of game warden, like that's somebody that's out there doing wildlife law enforcement 100% of the time. Where for me, I'm kind of like we're kind of like a Swiss Army knife, where we're doing biology, we're doing law enforcement, we're doing education, we're doing human wildlife conflicts, we're doing all sorts of stuff. So we're doing maintenance of our state wildlife areas, all that good stuff here.
Wait just a second.
Oh yeah.
So we're trying to get in the meeting.
Can you focus the camera on the screen?
Oh, should I see? Oh, I see the cameras on
On you?
there. Yeah.
You're in the dark.
Yeah.
Well, the dark.
People know what we're watching.
It's actually shared.
Oh,
The screen, so they're seeing
They're
us.
seeing that.
Nice. All right. So real quick, just a layout for you guys. We're across the state, we're broken up into areas. We're called Area 4. I don't know why that's our number, but that's our number. And then so we have a bunch of different wildlife managers or game wardens that work in my unit here. And each of us have our own specific district where we're responsible for, so that landowners like you guys can consistently go to the same person with whether it's wildlife issues or whatnot. One of the many things that I love about my job is my job is literally to build relationships with the community. So having our own specific districts allows us to grow and continue long-term relationships with folks like you guys. Here. Okay, there we go. A little bit zoomed in. So I cover Fort Collins, which I usually don't like to talk about very much, but I usually like to hang out here. So as you can tell, I cut off a part of my district there. So I cover basically like around Ted's Place. Highway 14 is my southern boundary, and I go north to 74E here, over to Denton. And then the Laramie River Road is my western boundary over there. To the north of me is Brock McCardle, which you guys are all, for the most part, familiar with Brock. So he's everything north of 74E. I'm everything south. However, we help each other out all the time. So, if there's, you just get a hold of one of us, and that's fine. Okay.
Hang on. Still not working. I know.
Okay, there we go. One thing I wanted to talk about real quick since we're coming up to that season is the calving season and fawning season. Especially whenever I was up in Estes Park, a lot of people assumed that during the rut with the elk, that was the most dangerous time, where those animals are the most dangerous. But in reality, it's the calving season in the spring that these animals are a lot more aggressive and a lot more likely for you or your pets to get into a pretty precarious situation. So the calves, they usually drop around, mid to late May, um, more late May, and then all the way really through June. So during those times, just be aware if you're out there walking through the neighborhood, and you see a cow elk, then just be extra vigilant, especially if you're having your dog keep a very safe distance because they could defend themselves and their young. And that includes moose too. Moose, to me, I would take a bear, a mountain lion, and go face to face with one of them than a moose any day. I love moose, but they actually like terrify me as well because they are so big that like they don't have a care. Like they are the king of the jungle up here, I would say. Like they have no worries because they're the biggest thing out there. So and then especially those mama cows, they can be extremely protective of their young. So one thing to also look out for is orphaned young. Luckily, this is something I usually have to hammer more with the Estes Park community, which I don't mean to knock them too much, but I'll knock them a little bit. But I mean, you guys seem a little bit more aware of, if there's a fawn or a calf, is to not touch it, leave it alone, leave it be. Their survival mechanism is to actually stay bedded down in some tall grass and stuff to avoid being detected by predators. And one way to think about it is, these mama elk and deer, they exhausted so much energy, A, surviving through the winter, but then B, like just going through a pregnancy. And so they need a little vacation of themselves and take care of themselves, and they need to go out and get some food and stuff as well. So that this gives them an opportunity to not stress out so much about their young and get those nourishments they crucially need after the winter and going through pregnancy and all that. And so if you see a calf or a fawn and you think it may be abandoned or whatnot, just give us a call. Let us know where it's at. I always give it a 24-hour rule. So like if there's a calf and it's in the same spot in your backyard and you see that at like 5 o'clock in the afternoon, if it's still there 5 o'clock the next day, then give us a call. We'll come out and continue to monitor to make sure whether it's abandoned or not. And then illegal feeding of wildlife. So in Colorado, it's illegal to feed big game. This is, especially to me, like this is a big issue. I'm not saying this community, it's a big issue, but in general, across the board, this is a really big issue that leads to multiple different things. So people that are illegally or intentionally feeding big game, they are doing it out of the goodness of their heart. All the people that I've addressed these issues with, they are doing it with good intentions. They want to help these animals and whatnot. I had this one guy, he's like, well, these deer, they were just eating all like the twigs off the bushes and the pine needles and stuff. And then I had to remind him, like, that's what they naturally eat. It's okay, like, they're doing just fine and stuff. It can create some pretty nasty things. So we always say winter weakens and spring kills. So during the winter, they're going through all their fat reserves. They're trying to conserve as much energy as they can. It weakens their immune system throughout all that time in the winter. And then so spring is actually where we see a lot of more of the effects of winter sort of overcoming a lot of these individual animals. And then so the feeding can actually increase the stresses of that and lead to things such as acidosis. If they're eating way too much of a certain particular type of thing. And then sometimes even organ blockage. I had one time up in Estes, an elk, and it just was dead. There was no injuries to it. There was nothing. So I did a field necropsy, and especially up there where I knew feeding was a big issue, I always looked at the stomach contents of every animal that I came across, and it was full of the black oil sunflower seeds. And then I looked in the intestinal tract, and it was just blocked from those seeds. So animals such as deer, elk, and moose, they're all ruminoids. So they're like cattle. They have multiple chambered stomachs, and their digestive system is specialized in just eating grasses and forbs and stuff like that. So when you start feeding them other things that their digestive system just isn't evolved to handle, then it can lead to digestive complications. And in this case, it would actually lead to starvation, which is the exact opposite of what these people in feeding are their intentions are and whatnot. So the other bigger thing is it alters like behavior. It alters migration, so it makes them more comfortable around humans, where then that actually could then lead to more chances of people getting hurt by those animals or whatnot. And then affecting the migration, so affecting the normal movement patterns of these animals. And then the biggest thing is disease transmission. So chronic wasting disease, it is somewhat prevalent. It's not highly prevalent here in Larimer County, but it is out there. And it's transmitted through these proteins called prions. And basically, when these animals are eating, they'll actually release some of these prions onto the ground or the thing they're eating. So when there's one specific site where all these animals are coming and feeding in one spot, if one of them is infected with those prions, the chronic wasting disease, then it greatly increases the likelihood of those prions and chronic wasting disease going to other members of the herd, and then could lead to, local herd, massive population crashes, or even just, locally, removing them from the landscape in the more extreme cases and whatnot. And then also pastorella, there's some sheep that we have north of 74E here. And then also, there's probably, have you guys ever seen a sheep kind of wander up from the canyon into your guys' neighborhoods, get lost and come up here? Or is that you? Or someone said that
We had, one of them, but mountain.
Yeah, we had two in our driveway.
Oh,
What, year ago, Ted?
3 years ago, something like
yeah.
that.
2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm guessing it's pretty rare, but like sometimes they'll pass through and whatnot. But sheep especially, we're seeing a lot of sickness throughout our sheep herd in the Poudre Canyon. And it's not just the Poudre Canyon, it's Big Thompson Canyon. Really a lot of herds across the state are dealing with actually like a pneumonia. And so odds are, if you see some sheep in the canyon and you watch them for a while, you'll see some coughing and hacking a little bit in a lot of those. And that can affect lamb recruitment, or, the young coming the next year, and the population growing and whatnot. And so with that, sheep naturally go to these mineral seeps in all the rocks and stuff. But if somebody puts out a salt block, then it just drastically increases the transmission of pneumonia and other illnesses like pastorella and things throughout the herd, and can lead to an entire herd just being wiped off. So, and then also the biggest thing here is it also lures predators. We'll talk about bird feeders and stuff in a little bit. But we always say predators follow prey. So if people are feeding deer and you have deer in your yard every day, like that's not a bad thing. That's one of the reasons why we moved up here. But you also have to understand that there's things that eat the deer, and then there's going to be times where those predators are going to be there as well. Injured wildlife. One thing to remember is that they're a lot tougher than us, or at least a lot tougher than me, where, if they have a broken leg, a lot of times they will be able to still live a full life. They may be limited in mobility for a while, a couple days, couple weeks, or even like a month or two. Or even a couple years where they have a severe limp. But we always give them the best chance that they can to survive, depending on the injury. So with that, same thing, 24-hour rule. If you have an injured deer or an elk or whatnot on your property, just give it space, make sure it's nice and relatively quiet for them while they're there. If they're still in the exact same spot that next day, then let us know. But if it's moving around, if it's injured, you see it on one corner of your property, then the next day it's on your neighbor's property, then the next day it's back on your property. In general, if it's still able to move and get to food and water, then we give it the best chance it can to survive. Because then otherwise, we're not able to rehab any of these ungulates. Much like horses, if they break their leg, it's a very complex bone or skeletal system. And then they're also wild animals, so we're not able to just pass every animal's leg and treat it and whatnot. So really the only option we would be able to do is to euthanize it, put it out of its suffering and whatnot. So I always like to give them the best chance that they can to live a full life. Vehicle collisions. It happens quite frequently along 74E, especially, just common sense stuff, driving slow, especially at night, being alert, always watching the shoulders, and whatnot when you're driving. And just make sure, to be careful. This was, from, elk, someone, hit an elk, and that was the aftermath of that, but. One thing, and don't worry, I won't go through this entire slide, but I just wanted to show, so a lot of people we get asked, so if there's an animal that was hit on the road, if it's something you're interested in, you are allowed to salvage the meat for human consumption. But if you were going to do that, you do have to notify us within 48 hours so we can give you a roadkill permit to legally possess that meat. So just also know that that's a opportunity, I guess, if to make the most out of a bad situation. That is something that you are able to do. Other things, well, this is also more of an Estes Park slide, but is the ability to euthanize wildlife. People who are legally allowed to make the call and do it are wildlife officers, police officers like Larimer County Sheriff's Department, or a licensed veterinarian are allowed to make the call of whether that animal needs to be euthanized or not. So if you observe a severely injured animal, I know sometimes it's hard to watch, but you have to at least call and notify us, let us know what's going on, and one of us can get up here, either us or a sheriff's deputy, whoever can get here quicker, and get that animal out of its misery there. So now we're gonna get into all the good stuff here. So all the bear stuff. So bears, we have about 17,000 to 20,000 bears across Colorado, give or take. About 9 bears per 100 kilometers here in Larimer County. So we have a pretty good amount of bears here along the Front Range. Our current goal with our population is to keep it stable, keep it within the number that it's at right now. And then, so our total annual mortality, total bears that we are okay with dying by human caused mortality is 52 bears. Where of those 32 bears is our goal for being harvested by hunters to help with the population, meeting our population goals, keeping it to where it's stable, where it's not drastically increasing, it's not drastically decreasing.
What's the area you're talking about there?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. So we consider basically everything from the Wyoming border all along down the Continental Divide and to I-25. Here is one bear unit, and so that's the 17 to 20,000 bears. That's statewide, just so you know. So
But
that's
your mortality is for just that area there.
Oh, correct. Yeah. So that mortality is for this entire area from I-70 to Wyoming, I-25 to the Continental Divide. Yeah. And then I'll turn it over to Sydney here. Oh, I forgot to introduce you.
No, that's okay. I'm Sydney. I'm an admin, the admin assistant too. So I will be the person that takes your phone calls when you call into our office. So there are no grizzly bears in Colorado. You're going to see black bears that can be brown. They come in different colors. So the most common is going to be the black color, but we do have the cinnamon ones, the lighter brown, and even blonde ones. They can sometimes have black heads with, the cinnamon bodies, so they do change. So all the bears you are seeing are black bears. So a little bit of the biology. Males are going to be the bigger ones. Females will be usually smaller. They do take up quite a large range. So that 10 to 25 square miles is usually a range of one bear. In the wild, they do live pretty long. So the 20 to 25 years, when we have the tooth data harvest, we do have bears that are, younger bears that they harvest like 2 to 3 years. We've had some that are 15 and they don't really even have teeth at that point just because they're so old. They have a great sense of smell. Obviously, they're bears. So they can smell things in your car. If you have scented chapstick, they will try to get in your car because it smells good. And so some of them can get kind of larger. Some people are like, that's the biggest bear I've seen at 600 pounds. They don't actually get that big. That's just how big you might think they are. So they're about 3 feet on, standing, a large dog. They can be about 5 feet tall, so a little bit shorter than me when they stand on their hind legs. So they are omnivores. So that is anything from, berries, grass, especially now when they start coming out, they're going to be eating a lot of grass. That helps move everything through their system because they've been, sleeping all winter. So berries, nuts, insects, and then they'll also go after animals. Or even carcasses. They kind of just go after anything that they can. So reproduction, as you can see, usually around age 3 is when they start seeing, we start seeing them reproduce there. The cubs are really tiny. They're usually born during the winter time when they're in the den. They're kind of funny looking. You don't normally, when you think of a bear cub, you think of a cute little thing, and they're really not. So when they're in the den over winter, that's when they really grow. And then sometimes the males do go after the cubs, and that's usually for dominance and to get the female ready to mate with him as well. Let's see. So here's just some pictures. Oops. Of a little cub in the tree up there. Did you take that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So hibernation, it is called torpor. It's not true hibernation. So they do wake up occasionally. I did get a call like literally the first week of January that there is a bear in Estes that was out and about just hanging out. So they do come out sometimes. They usually really start to come out in March, April. So when you call us and if there's a bear, we usually tell people to put your bird feeders away, because they start coming out in April, and then that's when bird feeders are usually out, and that's the biggest attractant. And so then we also see more conflict towards the end of the summer when they are entering hyperphagia. So that's when they are eating anything and everything they can to gain all of those calories to survive the winter. Is this a video or is it?
No,
that's just a picture.
Oh, yeah. And so this is one of my personal pet peeves is when people call and they say, "Hey, I have a bear problem," and it's one of my biggest pet peeves because bear is not the problem. Yeah, you have a problem with the bear, but the bear is just being a bear thing or just doing its bear thing. So that's just one of my personal pet peeves.
More pictures, bears. So this is kind of the biggest thing that I get calls in over summer. That they are getting into livestock and apiaries. So bees, chickens is really the biggest one that we see. So if you have livestock or bees, make sure you're doing what you can to protect them from a bear, because a bear is just doing what it would normally do. Chickens don't have much of a defense for bears.
Oh, and then actually stay on this.
Oh,
I think these are actually videos. Would it be possible to click on?
Let's find out.
So these are some videos I pulled off the internet of electric fencing. So, I mean, if you have livestock, or like a backyard with your pets out there, I mean, this is it will save you money, a ton of money down the road. Like, this is the best investment to get is electric. Yeah. So almost most of the time, I mean, bears are following their nose. They're using their nose. They smell 20 times better than or 7 times greater than a bloodhound. And so most of the time their noses will touch that hot wire first. And so that's, since they have such a great sense of smell, there's so many sensory receptors in their nose. It's very sensitive to them. And that zap on that fence will send them running, which is a great thing in order to keep that bear alive, keep that bear wild, and whatnot. So I like this video here because, I mean, this is one thing, if you have pets, I talk to some people in the community, they're, very concerned with the safety of their pets and stuff outside at night. But, just even putting one hot wire across the top of your back fence there is at least something to help prevent that. Sometimes I've seen people do a single strand electric fence. It's a nice try, but cubs can go underneath them, bears and mountain lions can jump over them or whatnot. Having something to where at least bears can't go underneath or whatnot to get to whatever you're keeping out. Another thing is if you keep all your trash in a shed on your property, I think it would be a really good investment into getting a relatively cheap electric fence to put around it from Jack's or wherever to prevent the bear from ripping a hole through your shed or ripping the door off your shed or whatnot. And then you're going to have to pay the cost of fixing that. And then that next year or that later that month, that bear is going to come back because they're like, oh, I remember I got trash in that shed before. And then they're going to rip off that brand new door that you just replaced. And then you're going to be like, crap, I should have listened to Chase. Bought the dang electric fence at the beginning. But yeah.
I'm sorry, do you find that if they do get zapped once that they remember that and don't come back, or?
Remember, I haven't seen it, but I've also heard stories so if you have an electric fence, is you need to routinely check to make sure that it's still working.
Oh, sure.
So making sure you're weed whacking underneath it doesn't get grounded unintentionally, because I've heard stories at least of bears that will still continue to come back and check. I talked to one game warden out in Montrose, and he was saying that the bear checked it every day, and then they put up a trail camera, and then I guess that one day that the fence got grounded somehow, and that bear checked it and was able to get through. So that just shows how relentless and smart they are and stuff. But yeah, and then the one thing I'd also say is in terms of mountain lions, sorry, Sydney, but
no, you're good.
In terms of especially mountain lions, but if I don't know if any of you guys have goats or sheep or whatnot, but it's well worth the investment to both protect your livestock and protect the lions and bears. is having some sort of fully enclosed thing to put your goats in every single night. It's a pain in the butt. I am absolutely sure. And maybe if some of you guys have them, you're probably like, hell no, Chase, I'm not going to do that. Like, it's already enough work just taking care of those things. But that's the best way to protect them, because literally the way my experiences with this job is, like, you are just rolling the dice every single night, where the probability is very low, but it's still a probability each night that tonight could be the night the lion decides to go in there and have fun with all the goats and stuff. But so those are my two biggest things. If you guys own any livestock or whatnot, invest in those early investments will save you a ton of money on both livestock and then also just property damage of the bears and lions getting in there and stuff.
Yeah, usually the biggest call we get about mountain lions is that they don't have any type of enclosure for sheep or goat, and it killed all 7 of them in one night. And then you're out 7 goats. There's, all of that. And then there's paperwork that goes along with that. And we make reports anytime. I guess I should have started with this. When you guys call, we do take reports for bears, mountain lions, and moose, because those are the biggest conflicts between people we see with them. So those, anytime you see one, we do make a report. Yeah, cool. It was on your porch. It didn't do anything, but we do track that just so we know that they are in the area. So yeah, we do see, all of a sudden there's no mountain lions, and then it just is one night it takes out all of your livestock. So,
yeah, I don't think I've ever been on a depredation of goats where only one goat has been killed. It's always either all of them or at least 2 or 3 of them.
Another big call that we get is that, can I shoot a mountain lion or bear when it's attacking my dog? So unfortunately, the answer is no. They are considered, is it personal property?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're considered personal properties. So in our nuisance wildlife, that is something that you're not able to defend. People are going to do what they're going to do, but it is illegal to do it. So especially in this area around dusk and dawn, we recommend usually whenever you call to use a flashlight and an air horn. So when you go outside with your pets, that you spook whatever might be in your yard. It might be a little annoying for your neighbors, but I think that's a little bit better than losing a pet. And then just if you're on walks, just make sure they're on leashes, so that you can control them when you're in areas that have predators.
And with these, the pictures I put up here, these are also just internet pictures, but like if your like backyard has a bunch of like bushes and things that can conceal mountain lions, especially it's a good, well, and also for fire mitigation too, is to try and keep it clear and open and visible, especially where you take your dogs outside. I would tell you, like, kind of the same thing of rolling the dice, about the livestock. I love my dog so much that the calls that I've gone to of lions versus dogs and lions versus outdoor house cats and stuff, I at least know that it's a low probability, but it's not a risk that I'm willing to take with my dog. So every night, if I'm taking my dog outside, I am out there with my dog right next to it. I have a flashlight and I go out, or before I let the dog out, I look out with the flashlight first, and then I go out with my dog and I'm right next to my dog the entire time. Yeah, I hope this can be conveyed to you guys. Like, it's also a pain in the butt. A lot of the things that we're going to talk about today is like, it's another one of the, I say, many inconveniences of living in the mountains, but it's a many inconveniences to also coexist with the wildlife. So biasly, because I kind of like these things, is I like to do all this stuff, or it's worth it to me. And so if I can convey anything to you guys, like, there's enough probability that I wouldn't be willing to take the risk of just letting my dog out at night. So that's just me. I'm just gonna stand there.
Yeah, and I mean, I have a tiny dog and I live in Fort Collins and I let her off leash and hawks will even like swoop at her. So being in an area where there's even larger predators with your dogs is just kind of risky. And then I've also gotten calls where it was last year, a guy let his dog out just on the back porch. A mountain lion came onto the porch, grabbed his dog. He did get his dog. He actually beat the mountain lion with his shoes and it ran off. The dog it did survive. It just had to get stitches, but things like that do happen pretty quickly. So
We did have one, last summer, somewhere on the north end of 74E there, a guy's dog got attacked and the dog survived, I think. But yeah, so it has happened around here. But yeah, it does happen. And so, yeah, back to that question of like, can you shoot a bear or a mountain lion that is attacking your beloved pet? And legally, the answer is no, you can't. You guys don't have to read all this legal jargon and stuff, but basically, this is the statute that's basically saying when you are allowed to shoot a lion or a bear in self-defense, and that is really only, well, self-defense of human life, to prevent injury or death from livestock. So if it's actively depredating on like your chickens or your goats or whatnot, if it's a bear in your backyard, but it's on the outside of the fence of your goat pen, that's not actively attacking your goats. If it's in the goat pen and chasing your goats around, that's a different story. But if it's just a bear walking through your backyard, that's not justification to shoot a bear. And then also real property. So that's if it, well, technically if it's going into a shed or if it's breaking into your house or whatnot. And so that doesn't include personal property. And at least under Colorado law, pets are considered personal property. So yeah, I had several calls last year of people, I'll remove the cuss words, but they're like, if that bear goes after my dog, I'm gonna freaking kill it. And then I tell them like, you better not. And then let me know if you do, because then we got some paperwork to do. But yeah, so I just wanted everyone to be aware of that. And all these goals, all these things that we're telling you today is to prevent the chances of being in a situation to do that. Nobody wants to shoot a bear or mountain lion just because it's on your property. Like, we want to prevent all that stuff from happening. So.
Some of the biggest things we see with bears are bears and bird feeders. Everyone loves birds. And it's very easy food for the bears. Even hummingbirds, because they love sugar. And so do bears. So that's going to attract them. When you call us, our office in Fort Collins, we're going to recommend that you put out your bird feeders from November through April. Because it's going to be winter time. That is when the birds actually need your help for food. In the summertime, there's plenty of food for those birds. So then there's less attractants. It attracts squirrels, which can attract some other things, which attracts, it also attracts raccoons, and those can all be prey for coyotes or bears or mountain lions. So usually this and vehicles are some big things as well. Bears are very smart. If they get into something once, they will continue to do it. There might be like one time I got into a car with dog food. That is a big thing that we get calls about. And so they will continuously throughout that week try every single car in the neighborhood to try to get in. So make sure that you lock your doors. Your windows are all rolled up because they'll even reach into the windows and break the windows to get into your car. And then there's the problem that sometimes you might be unlucky. You got a bear stuck in your car because they lock themselves in there. They can't get out. I used to work down in Denver, and that was quite a large problem, actually, that they would have in Boulder. Is a lot of bears would get stuck in cars. And it causes a lot of damage. You don't want a 200-pound animal eating your car seats in there.
Yeah, it economically totals your car.
Yeah.
I've had a lot of calls from insurance agents out of like let's just say Georgia. I don't know. And saying like, hey, my client said that their car was totaled by a bear up in the mountains there. Is that true? And I was like, yeah, like it happens up here. And this one, I love this picture. This is one of my best memories because when I produced, sorry, this sounds yeah, I shouldn't have said it out loud, but well, it'll make sense in a second. But so I got a call of a bear inside this vehicle at this person's house. This was outside of Estes, and it was a huge bear. Like this, it took up the entire back seat, like the butt up against the window on one window, and then like the face was even like crooked a little bit in the back window there, uh and it couldn't get out. And then we couldn't open up the doors because of the damage it made on the inside, didn't allow the doors to be open. So where I'm getting at why it's a great memory for me is I like asked the vehicle owner, like, well, is it okay if I break the window? And he's like, yeah, sure. So I got to like get this big rock and I just got right into the window. It was like my one feeling of being like a mischievous young teenager. And then this picture over here, this picture was actually taken in one night up there. This was also, sorry, a lot of these pictures were up in Estes, but a lot of this is so that we don't become the new Estes. Please don't tell anybody from Estes. I love Estes. I love all the people. But yeah, this was all from one night. I would just go around at night, like all those different condo complexes, resort complexes and stuff. I would just drive around at night looking for open car doors. And then I would walk up to the car with the open car door and I'd see, bear paw prints inside the car and all that stuff. A lot of these vehicles, you can't tell from the picture, but a lot of the vehicles that I would see of bears getting into, they were actually rental cars. Unsurprisingly, I know, but the point with that is like they're rental cars where there was nothing inside them, like no crumbs, like it was completely clean. And these bears are just some of these individual bears learn, like once they get enough food out of vehicles, then they start learning, oh, I'm going to start checking vehicles. And so one night it rained at about 8 p.m. And then later that evening, I was going out looking for vehicles, found some vehicles that were open. And then I looked at all the other vehicles in the parking lot, and each vehicle had a muddy paw print on. So like what showed me is this individual bear was systematically going each car door, just checking if it's open. Shows you how smart they are. And so like once it happens once, it's it's not good. And then time wise, we gotta
Yeah, okay. Trash. Food for bears, very easy. Just make sure that you either can have a secure place to put them. Sometimes sheds work, sometimes they don't. When I worked in Denver, a lady famously said to me, it was the funniest thing anyone's told me, that the bear Kool-Aid man its way through the door that she had replaced 3 times. So they will do anything to get some easy food and crash through doors to get to them. So if you don't have a shed or an area, we usually say bear-proof trash cans and tie them up to a tree or a fence so they can't knock them over and jump on them until they break the lid open, because they'll also do that. Ooh.
Oh, no. Sorry. You guys staying awake? Sorry.
Yeah. You're not. You want me to skip through that?
Yeah.
And then so it kind of just escalates. Bears go from bird feeders to cars to trash, getting closer to your house where they eventually can break into your house. Especially when you're like, oh, it's a nice night out. I just had a steak cookout with my friends and family in the neighborhood. My grill is outside. It smells really good. And the bear comes in. They will break into the house, get into your fridge. They know where everything is. They've probably done it before if they're breaking into a house. So just make sure that you keep your doors locked, windows closed and locked, because they have also learned how to push windows open. Like I said, and Chase said, they're pretty smart. If they've done it once, they'll try to come back, kind of like when a dog gets into the trash sometimes, you know, where they get onto your table and eat food, they'll try again until they get in trouble. So that kind of goes to, you want to play this video?
Yeah, could you?
Yeah,
that,
give me-
if you don't mind?
A moment.
So almost every single bear that broke into a house call that I've gone to, it's the same MO. It goes through usually an open window, goes straight to the fridge, ransacks the fridge, goes into the cabinet, ransacks the cabinet a little bit, and then takes the kitchen trash bag as a to-go bag, brings it outside, and then rips it up, and then you got trash all over the lawn and your neighbor's property and all that there. And yeah, so I think that, yeah, that's the end of the video. And we could, this is a cub that I dealt with once. So like these sows, the mama bears, they are teaching their cubs everything. And to be honest, they're teaching them the really smart things, how to eat really good food really easily. And so, yeah, we can play that real quick. And so this bear is this is a bear resistant trash can. But later on in this video, like it'll jump up there and start almost like doing CPR on it, just like how the mama bear does it. A lot of these bear proof trash cans are more bear resistant. The weight of a full size bear can sometimes, when they're doing that CPR method on it, will at least pop one of the latches of those cans, and then they can kind of bend it and bear handle it enough to where then they can reach in and get all the trash and stuff out of it. So yeah, I don't like this video. I don't like to see this stuff, but it just shows like they are passing it along, and then you've got a whole other generation of bears to have to deal with that behavior. So the progression of bears, like with their habituation to humans. So my entire goal, and hopefully your guys' entire goal as well, is to prevent bears from getting into homes. So bears, they don't come fresh out of the woods and straight into your home, straight into your refrigerator. They usually start off with birdseed and honeybird feeders, and then that gets them kind of comfortable being around houses, being around the sights and sounds of and smells of humans. Then they get an offer they can't refuse, all our delicious trash. And then, then it turns into like they're napping and hanging out underneath people's decks. They take cool videos to send all their family on Facebook saying like, look how cool this bear is. Then they're getting into sheds and vehicles. And then progressively they get so comfortable around humans, they're willing to take that risk of going into a home to get all that food. And once they get that delicious boar's head deli meat, then there's no going back for them, which you can't blame them. Unwelcome mats, it's relatively cheap. I used to be able to say this was cheap, but now it's all wood is not so cheap. But if you have scrap wood and like a box of old screws and stuff, we have some information on our website for unwelcome mats. These things, they appear and seem really crude. It looks like a medieval torture device, which I mean kind of inspired, but it's basically it's a nail board, but it has to be built properly to protect the bear. So with black bears, you want to just think 2 inches. So 2 inches apart for the nails, and then 2 inches high through the board. So then that's far enough apart to where if a bear steps puts its paw on it, it's going to go, oh, I don't want to step on that, as opposed to if it's too far apart, then it could actually like impale or damage their paws and whatnot. So you want to build them properly. These bears aren't out there hopping around like rabbits or anything. They're as we can see, they're really intelligent. So they're not just going to be like slamming their feet down, walking really hard. They're lightly walking, so they'll be able to notice that. So things like that, in front of your shed, if you have trash in your shed, or in front of a window, like if you don't have, I'm guessing most of us don't have air conditioning in up here. So if it's so freaking hot at night and you just want to leave that window open, I would have a huge bear mat or unwelcome mat out there. And a lot of people, they make a really good attempt and I give them like a thumbs up, but I tell them to build it better. They'll do like a 2x4, but then the bear can simply step over it. So you want to make it big enough, like the 4x10 OSB boards. At least the last time I went, it was like $13 for a board. I don't know what it is now, but I would make it as big enough that bears can't still reach over to the window or the door or whatnot.
I'll put my 2 cents in from that. We've had people send videos of bears literally pushing aside like the super small unwelcome mats, and we'll just go up their stairs. And then someone finally made one big enough, and the bear was sitting, just putting his paw on it, just kind of like waiting for them to like come out and move it, like let them back up the stairs. So just make sure that they are the right size.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
All right. So, and then I will get into this. So I'll turn the lights back on here. That's all right.
Let me,
So that's fine. It's enough for at least I could see to know what to talk about. So just really quickly, like how we manage bears. You know, there may be some people in here that are like, Chase, you are, I'm gonna cuss you, a bastard for putting down bears. That's horrible. How can you do that and stuff? And I just want to let you know that I completely agree that it is horrible and I don't like doing it one bit. That's why I'm here, to hopefully entice you guys to do more of these inconvenient things so that I don't have to do the horrible thing of killing a bear. And one thing I want to make it very clear is when we have to put down a bear, it's if they're doing something dangerous. So if they're breaking into houses, if they're getting into houses, I wouldn't be able to sleep at night knowing that I'm allowing a bear continually breaking into houses, because it just can lead to dangerous situations. A lot of the calls that I would get of bears breaking into houses, the times where the people actually discover the bear in the house is they're asleep or they're in the other room watching TV, and then they're like, oh man, like, you know, like, why is my husband like having a late night snack right now? Like he better not be getting into those brownies and stuff. They walk out into the kitchen, see the glow of the fridge, and then see the big blob of the fur there, realize that the bear's there. And then so bears, they're extremely intelligent, but also when they're startled like that, they're going to want to go back to where they came in. Like in their mind, the only way out is the way that I came in. So if it's a situation that the person came out, but then now they're standing in between the bear and the only way that the bear thinks is going to get out, then that bear is going to want to get through there. And so that might be, you know, if we're lucky, just a push with some superficial scratches, or if there's a cub, some more defensive techniques and stuff. So that's just situations that I, unfortunately, like I will not be content with, I guess. So unfortunately, the bear has to pay the price for that. Unfortunately, the folks that work really hard and do their chores, as I like to call them, do all these inconvenient things, you know, they're the ones that also have to suffer the loss of that bear because of, I mean, really, it just takes one person leaving out hummingbird feeders and stuff. And I'm sure some of you guys in your mind right now, you're like, I'm not going to put those damn humming feeders away. I love all those humming feeders on my porch every summer. It's just amazing. It's awesome. I love my bird feeders because I love, you know, seeing all these birds coming by during the summer and stuff. But I'm telling you, if you love bears too, those birds are going to be fine. There's other ways to attract birds. Put up some flowers and things for the hummingbird feeders. Honestly, like I love hummingbirds, but like it's, to me, at some point it gets really annoying of the buzzing and whirling of 20, 30 hummingbirds around your porch and stuff. Personally, it's not that relaxing to me after a while, but then let me see on time. Okay, sorry, I'll rush through all this here too. But like just know that like if we do have to put down a bear, if I have to put down a bear, I will not go hide behind a rock. Like, if you guys hear that I put down a bear and it upsets you, please call me. Please, like, we'll talk about it. You can still be upset with me. Like, I'm fine if you guys are upset with the management action I did, but like, I'm not going to do anything where I wouldn't be able to at least stand behind my actions and my reasonings. You may not have to agree with my reasonings and still be upset with me, but just understand like where I'm coming from and where what my job is I shouldn't say this either. Unfortunately, human safety has to go above animal safety in my job. So I'll leave it there. But
Do they do most of their feeding during the day or at night?
so mostly at night, dusk and dawn. But bears that get so habituated, lose their fear of humans and stuff, they can be out throughout the day. Especially August, September, during what's called hyperphagia. They're feeding frenzy. They're eating 20,000 calories a day. That's equivalent to like 48 Big Macs, I think. Over 40 Big Macs a day. A bear is scavenging and trying to eat and such. Yeah, during that time, like they can be out all times of the day. And so just know that if I ended up putting down a bear, I do things like this. I respond to bear calls, talk to the homeowners and stuff, give them advice how to mitigate and prevent further conflicts and whatnot. And doing all that, going out and hazing these bears and all that stuff, like I put a lot of time invested into these bears. And so like, just know that it's not just me like sitting at my house watching Netflix and I'm like, oh, okay, like I'll just go kill it and then that'll be the easiest thing. So I know like these are very harsh words, but like, I feel very strongly about this. And like I used to say back whenever I first did these programs, I would say like, yeah, then we would have to euthanize it and stuff. And then some people, like rightfully so, I would say, get really upset and be like, well, why don't you just call it what it is and just say that you're killing the bear? And so now like I'm starting to use that term. Like that's what some of those people want me to use. I'll use that term. Euthanasia is the humane method of killing an animal. And so like we're doing it, of course, humanely and all that stuff. But yeah, so I'll use those terms. And I also think it's good to use those strong terms now, is just to like let you like so you guys are aware that these things happen. I also want to say, if a bear is getting into your trash, if a bear is getting into your bird feeder, I'm not going to kill a bear just because it got in someone's trash. I wouldn't even kill a bear if it got into everybody's trash here, and such. Now, the other case, so when a bear is dangerous, it's learned of dangerous behavior, then yeah, we have to go and kill that bear. The other instance where we would have to kill a bear as opposed to relocating it, or just trying to like haze it and whatnot, is our 2-strike policy. And so the 2-strike policy, it has a massive misconception across all the communities I've had where they think, okay, like if I call in that it got into my trash and then my neighbor calls in that it got into their bird feeder, then, oh, that's 2 strikes and he's going to kill that bear. No, our 2-strike policy in reality is more a 40-strike policy where we're getting continuous calls of a bear doing nuisance behavior. And so we decide to relocate that bear. And anytime we relocate a bear, we have to put ear tags on it with a number on it. And if that bear then goes into whether the same community or a different community continues that nuisance behavior per our policy, then we would have to put it down. That also doesn't mean it goes back into community, gets into trash once, boom, okay, let's go and let's go kill that bear. No, like we still then put in that effort to try and haze that animal, try to educate those communities to try and button up a little bit. And then if it still continues that behavior, then we have to follow our policy. Getting to that with relocation then is personally, off the top of my head, I can't think of a situation where I would relocate a bear out of Glacier View Meadows. Glacier View Meadows is bear habitat. If I relocate a bear, then like I mentioned before, it has that 1 strike. I'm basically setting that bear up for death because relocation by and large is not successful unfortunately for bears, it's a feel good, it's a Band-Aid, and it's a feel good thing, and we're kicking the can down the road for whatever neighborhood where it decides to move in after that. You know, and honestly, it is one of the best days at work. I love, you know, when we do relocate a bear out of Fort Collins or Boulder or whatnot, it's an amazing feeling getting it out of the alleyways of Boulder, kicking it out loose back into the woods and stuff. But most of the time, within a month, they are back to that same spot and doing it again and stuff. And so I'm not going to do that to the bears. To me, how I mentioned, oh, I have a bear problem. To me, the problem is not that bear, it is the community. And so like unfortunately, I'm gonna kick it back onto you guys too. Like I like taking the self-responsibility, all you guys individually and as a community, to coexist with these bears and mountain lions, to where if it gets to the point where I have to put down a bear, and I wouldn't be like upset with you guys or anything, but like I personally believe that it's the community's responsibility for that bear being killed. The community failed that bear, and then now the community loaded the gun, and unfortunately, I'm the one that has to pull the trigger for these animals that I love. Like we didn't sign up for these careers so to go kill crap. Like, you know, and so anytime I have to euthanize an animal, you know, it's a horrible time, especially bears and mountain lions, knowing like how much time and effort, not just me, Brock, Justin, everybody on our team, you know, all the stuff that Sydney and them at the front office do, taking those calls, recording those information and stuff to help give us an idea of like, oh man, you know, there's a bear starting to you know, get habituated up there in Glacier View Meadows. I need to start getting up there and talking to some folks and whatnot.
Is bear spray an effective deterrent?
Yeah, bear spray is a very effective deterrent. I would also say though that it is very likely that you would also get sprayed with bear spray.
How to use it.
Yeah. But and I would say I've been pepper sprayed a couple of times for work, not because I was running from the cops. Back in my high school days.
I was gonna say, I sprayed a bear that was up on my deck, you know,
Yeah.
around the bird feeder, and I've never seen it back.
Yeah, so if you can use pepper spray, it's phenomenal. Like we mentioned before, like tons of sensory receptors in their nose. So like pepper spray hits us really hard, but it really whops those bears. And that's a good thing. Like we're hitting the hand as it's getting into the cookie jar, and hopefully it doesn't try and get in the cookie jar again. So yeah, bear spray is good. However, things to consider is even if there's the slightest little breeze, and if that breeze is heading towards you, you're also going to be coughing, and there's going to be snot and spit and tears, and it's not enjoyable. It's 15 minutes of hell, and yeah. And then if you have open windows in your house, and then it blows into all your house, then you got like a couple days of coughing and all that. So, yeah.
So I know this isn't nearly as exciting as bears, but the turkeys come to our deck and eat our bird feed. Is that a problem?
So technically, you're allowed to feed turkey, like you're allowed to feed birds, and turkeys are birds, so you're allowed to feed turkeys. But if turkeys are able to get to the bird feed, then I'm guessing it'd be on the ground. And so if turkeys can get to it, most likely deer and elk can get to it. And
It's
so,
actually 25 feet up in the air.
oh, it is. Oh, so they fly up there.
They fly up
Yeah.
to the deck.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's technically okay. Yeah, it's technically legal. I would say though, like birds are a mess. Like, you know, they'll eat the seeds, but they also throw seed like those stellar jays. They just throw those seeds all over the place. And then there's seeds on the ground and whatnot. So definitely I would like from now until Thanksgiving, like I wouldn't put out any more bird seed for if I were you guys. I strongly suggest professionally
Okay.
to not do that. And I'll tell you the meanest people I deal with at work are people that have bird feeders and hummingbird feeders, and I tell them you have to take those down because the bear came, and so now then legally you have to take them. You have to prevent that conflict from happening again. And so, and those, I'll just say, I'll leave it there. That those people are the meanest people to me.
It
Because they're passionate about their birds.
it doesn't cause the turkeys any of those gastrointestinal difficulties that it causes in ungulates.
No, yeah, no, but yeah, they'd be good with that. Yeah, so it's,
Right.
yeah,
Are you ready for questions?
yeah, we'll go to questions. Yeah, I had some other stuff, but this is more.
I grew up and lived in Nebraska till we retired out here 8 years ago. And I was always curious. I understand the don't feed the deer here or the elk and stuff for the reasons you presented, but other states allow it. Is there some reason that the mountains make it different, or you understand my question?
Yeah, like, in like Texas or Georgia or somewhere in the southeast where they can feed deer and stuff. So this is more of me just inferring or assuming why. My best guess of why they do it and not us is because deer out in the southeast and like Pennsylvania and stuff, like white-tailed deer are essentially, like, I don't want to say a pest, but there's so many deer out there that, like, they're overpopulated, they're causing so much issues. So allowing the feeding of deer, especially like in a hunting standpoint, allows hunters to help manage those populations a little bit more. So allowing the feeding of deer in general will help that management tool. I'm guessing they're using more of the management tool over there than over here.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yep.
I spoke to Brock yesterday about
I'm sorry.
ground squirrel.
Yeah.
About really ground squirrel infestation.
Okay. Yeah.
And we just discussed what are the possible treatments that a landowner who doesn't have a crop can do about it. And there's really not a whole lot you can do about it from what I understand.
Yeah. And unfortunately, especially with ground squirrels, it's one landowner can take actions to get rid of those ground squirrels on your property, but it really takes not just one landowner, but it takes all the surrounding neighbors all to collectively continue to do that and persist to do those applications and treatments to get them out of that area.
Right.
So
what could that one landowner do?
What's that?
What could the one landowner do?
Like with the other neighbors?
No, on their property, because you can't buy poison bait, for example, unless you're certified to do that. And of course, in an HOA, people have problems with poisons and what have you.
Yeah.
So there's a gentleman here. I don't know if he wants to identify himself. Who has a weasel on his property.
Yeah. I think I'm guessing where you're getting at. Bringing the weasel.
I'm all about looking at how can I encourage some weasel action.
If I ever have to relocate a weasel, I'll hit you up.
What's that?
If I ever have to relocate a weasel, I'll hit you up.
I'll take it by. I mean, is there any way that we can encourage weasel habitation?
I mean, I would say just the existence of those ground squirrels alone should bring in some weasels, and but at the same time, like 20 weasels are probably not going to be able to knock down, depending on how big the colony is. Like natural predation of those things isn't going to solve your issue, I guess.
Is that right?
Yeah. And we have I can send you, I'll give you my card. I could send you, like, we have our nuisance wildlife laws, which kind of list out what you can and can't do in terms of like those animals causing damage to your property and stuff. Because you do have some a little bit more rights in terms of there's a list of species to where you don't need a hunting license, and if they're causing damage to your property, you are able to protect your property in that regard, to like, meaning for small animals and stuff like ground squirrels, rabbits, things like that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, because they're getting into leach fields. Understandably so, because it's off the ground, so. And I don't know what kind of damage they can do, but it can't be good.
yeah,
You're talking about the Wyoming ground squirrel.
Yes, Wyoming.
Yeah. yeah, and we yeah, well, for an example, my dad, his place is down in South Park, and he has a bunch of the Wyoming ground squirrels down there, and he invested in a pellet gun, and it drives him nuts because he bought this pellet gun, and then once he got it, and every time he's down there, it's like all the ground squirrels know, and then they just when he's there, and so it just drives him nuts.
Get a falconer's license and get a falcon.
As long as it doesn't bother the weasels.
Yeah.
Wolves in the area, yes.
We occasionally will have a wolf hop over from North Park, and kind of it's happened several times the past 2 years, I guess, where a solo wolf will pop over from North Park, come over to like the Laramie River Valley or whatnot, and kind of scope out and then head back over. So a lot of these good, I was trying to get through a whole program and like what we're seeing is especially these wolves that we're transplanting over to here, we're seeing, like, just as people would be like, if all of a sudden we were dropped off somewhere new to live, you're going to go shop around and see where you want to set up your house, like where you want to buy a house and whatnot. So what we're seeing a lot is a lot of these wolves, once they're getting kicked out, is they're going on these long excursions, just seeing what the heck is all around before, I'm assuming, I'm kind of anthropomorphizing it, but until they're like, oh, okay, this seems pretty nice, I'll set up shop here.
They have a pretty good sized range anyway, don't they?
Yeah. They can, they could easily cover like 60 miles, like nothing. Yeah.
You tell the wolves about the Wyoming ground squirrels?
Yeah, or a nice badger. I'll if I ever for some reason have hands on a badger,
I'm your boy.
Yeah.
So, my dad has a house in Estes Park. He's actually in San Francisco right now, but I have access to his wildlife cameras. And there in Estes Park is, at least the one that says his house, is really big, really fat. Obviously out of hibernation, maybe a little bit early. Why would it be so well fed, fat looking, when it's been in hibernation? Or has it not been in hibernation?
Just, those bears in Estes especially are very healthy because like the dumpsters, the trash issues, the unlocked vehicles, like all that stuff. During the summers up there, almost every night I would have a bear inside of at least one house. Yeah. And I guess along with that, one important point I wanted to make about that is, and this isn't some like secret thing because I want like reasons to kill a bear or whatnot. This is actually the opposite, to prevent me from getting to a point of killing a bear. Is the most minor conflicts or whatnot, like the bear gets in your bird feeder or whatnot, like, and you're like, oh man, like Chase told me I shouldn't have these bird feeders, like I don't want to call them, like it'd be embarrassing. It's like, it's fine, like there's no judgments here, but call me on all the little stuff, because like Sydney was saying, call me or call the office. We take those reports, whether it's a sighting or a minor conflict or a major conflict. But me knowing about all those little things, then puts it on my radar to at least be, it's kind of reactive, but also at least being a little bit proactive. Like my whole goal is to get that bear, prevent that bear from getting into houses. And so that's my entire goal in this job. Well, not my entire goal of this job, but during the summers, my entire goal is to prevent bears from getting into houses to where I have to put them down. And so the more you call about the little things, then it lets me know of a problem. Like I can't solve a problem if I don't know about it. And then also I'm not going to be able to solve a problem because I'm just one person. So like a lot of this, I mean, this is a community empowerment moment here to where like, talking to your neighbors, like if you see neighbors with 15 hummingbird feeders along their wraparound porch or whatnot, like talk to them and encourage them to, change their behaviors a little bit. Because one thing to think about is a bear that learns, a trash in your neighbor's shed. You may just have a normal shed with tools in it and nothing that a bear would want. But then in that bear's mind, it's like, oh, like I'm gonna go check in there because that other one right over here, I got a bunch of food out of. So I see a lot of people suffering property damage because of the negligence of neighbors, or maybe not direct neighbors, like other people in the community and stuff. So people that are relaxed on some things are causing property damage to neighbors and whatnot. At least that's the way I look at it. Yeah.
Do you find that bears cause issues with like campgrounds when people are like tent campgrounds and barbecues and things like that?
Yeah, definitely campgrounds. Luckily, at least for the most, the forest in the established campgrounds, for the most part, luckily, the Forest Service is great partners where a lot of their campgrounds now have those bear boxes to put food in and stuff, and that is great for that. Off Manhattan Road and stuff. I don't know, that it's kind of the Wild West out there. So yeah. But yeah, so campgrounds and stuff that have those bear boxes, that's great. But yeah, the other areas that are more dispersed, those things it's hard to get a beat on of how often those type of things occur. Because a lot of those type of folks, like they're, not to bash people from other communities, but they're coming from other places, and yeah, they may have a bear issue, but then they're leaving and going home the next day. So they're like, oh, well, that was crazy, like a bear. And, like it's kind of sensationalized and they think it was a cool experience, not realizing that they're actually setting this bear down a trajectory that's not good. Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah.
Follow-up question to hers. When I think about it, they got the beautiful campground around Dowdy and stuff up there. Do they have problems in the summer? The bears just meandering through, smelling marshmallows and mowers?
I'm trying to remember. Yeah, we didn't. I think they have bear boxes up there. They do have bear boxes up there. Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, we definitely get some calls up in like Red Feather proper. Some bears getting into like minor stuff, trash here and there and whatnot. In Glenhaven, or not Glenhaven, sorry, Glacier View last year, off the top of my head, I can remember there was like 2 juvenile bears kind of roaming around the town or the community here. And I was getting several calls at the beginning of the summer, and then later half of the summer, I didn't really get any calls, or not persisting calls on those bears, which I'm like relieved about, which is good. That tells me that the community kind of like, you guys are naturally at a higher, better level than maybe some of the other communities that I've worked in. Like that's this part. That was your words, not mine.
Chase, it's real fast. 7:30.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sorry, guys.
You okay continuing?
Oh, whatever you guys are comfortable with. I mean,
I think we need to.
yeah, if some of you guys want to get the hell, get the heck out of here, then
I just want to thank you
Yeah.
and any information you have on.
Yeah, let me put you in my card. And then anyone leaving or for whatnot, I'll leave some cards up here if you guys want one of my cards.
Yeah, I really